Hello and welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. This one is my team selection for game week 3. So we're going to go over how I got on in game week 2 briefly, although I'd rather not. Then we're going to look at how I'm lined up for game week 3 currently and my thoughts on captaincy and my transfer plans. So let's get straight into it. Okay, so like many others, my game week 2 went pretty terribly. You can see there, game week points 40. So yeah, really wasn't ideal. Salah kind of saved it a bit. Salah and the Burnley defence. As you can see, I went for Dubravka over Kelleher. Didn't make too much difference in the end. They both kept a clean sheet, but I went with Dubravka. I didn't really... A lot of people had Sanchez or Sells to choose from. I would have gone with those guys over Dubravka, so I'm kind of glad that I have Kelleher and Dubravka, to be honest. Then Esteve obviously with 6 points as well. Murillo and Richards played against each other. I mean, one of them, I just wanted a clean sheet from one of them ideally, but that didn't happen. Then Bruno Fernandes obviously missed his penalty. He did get the defensive contribution threshold, so it landed him on 2 points in the end, but that could have been a lot better. I mean, if he scored that penalty, we're probably looking at like a 12-pointer or something, and then he's quite easily the best captain choice for this week. Cole Palmer obviously missed the game, so I got Porro, who got 5 points, which, again, that was actually pretty helpful in the end because I didn't get many points from elsewhere. Then, like I say, Salah kind of saved my team almost with 1 assist, which is a bit pathetic given the state of my team. But yeah, Reinders and Wirtz, neither did particularly well. Watkins, Thiago, again, neither did particularly well. So yeah, it was 40 points in total. Not a great week. I'm down to a pretty terrible rank, but we can save it. It's early doors, so let's see how I'm looking for game week 3. Okay, so starting off in goal, I've got Kelleher with Sunderland away. It's a pretty obvious one this week. Dubravka plays Man United away, albeit after their showing at Grimsby, who knows. But regardless, Kelleher is in goal with Sunderland away. This is kind of the reason I went with these two. I knew I wanted Dubravka because a playing 4 million goalkeeper is always something I'll be interested in. And then out of the 4.5 million options, Kelleher rotated quite well, and I just prefer him to the other options really, but it will obviously be Kelleher in goal this week with Sunderland away. Onto the defence now, and the bench, I mean, I've got Esteve with Man United away on the bench, and then I've got Richards with Aston Villa away. I won't be playing Richards over any of these guys because I own an Aston Villa striker, obviously. However, Porro, Van de Ven, Murillo are the players I'll be playing. I don't love Bournemouth at home as a fixture for Spurs. Obviously, Porro's somewhat fixture proof in that, I mean, he can get forward and attack pretty well. So even if he loses a clean sheet, there's kind of points opportunities elsewhere. Van de Ven, not so much. He could get defensive contributions, but Romero is probably more likely to get those. Van de Ven's just cheap, and the fixtures after this week are really good, so I won't be selling him. Murillo, West Ham away. That's a pretty good fixture. West Ham look pretty awful at the moment, so don't mind that at all. Next week, it's not a good fixture for Murillo, but if you watched my video in pre-season for my team, you will have known that I made sure I chose all of these defenders so that they rotate really well. This was probably the worst week, so I do have to play Van de Ven with Bournemouth at home, but going forward, they rotate really well. For example, next week, Murillo has Arsenal. Spurs have a good fixture, so I'll play them too. And then Richards, this is where Richards comes in, because next week, I believe he's got Sunderland. So I just made sure that every week I've got 3 defenders with good enough fixtures. But yeah, there is a chance that I actually move Murillo or Porro on at some point soon, because I really like Munoz, but I don't think I'll be able to do it because of my potential transfer plans, which we will talk about at the end. So that's my defenders. Onto the midfield now. Bruno Fernandes, Burnley at home. I do have the captaincy armband on him. Like I mentioned earlier, if he scored that penalty against Fulham, he would be the most popular captain this week by a mile. And I don't think that a missed penalty should really change much. Something that maybe would change an opinion is their performance against Grimsby, which is completely valid. They were bad. However, against Fulham, against Arsenal, they were very good. And I'm hoping that they can kind of go back to that almost. I just think there isn't really a standout other option. Given that Salah plays Arsenal, given that Palmer could be injured and maybe out, I don't really have much of a standout other option. So I think I'll be going with Fernandes. In fact, I'll definitely be going with Fernandes. There's not a reason that I won't be going with Fernandes. I do think he's the best captaincy option this week. Chris Wood is probably in second, and if you've got Haaland, then he's up there as well. But I don't have either of those guys, so I will definitely be going with Fernandes. Palmer will touch on when I talk about transfers. Salah really hasn't been performing that well, but I won't be selling him. There's nowhere to really go from him, and he's great for captaincy in game week 4 and 5. That's when the fixtures really start to get nice for Liverpool, so I'll be keeping him. Reinders, again, not the best performance in game week 2, but Spurs is just a bogey team for City. I don't really have any issues. I think his game week 1 performance was just so unbelievable that I don't really need to worry about him, at least for the next few weeks. Wirtz is someone I am really worried about. He has been pretty bad in the first 2 weeks. There's not really anything good I can say about him. He's just been bad. All of the players around him have been pretty good. Gakpo, Ekitike, the likes of Szoboszlai, he's been good as well. If the fixtures were rough going forward, I would be selling Wirtz. However, I can't really sell him before the game week 4 and game week 5 fixtures. I think it's Everton and Burnley, so he will be staying for a few weeks at least, and I'm not expecting much this week, but I'm hoping game week 4 and 5 he can get some points. So that is where my midfield is at. Onto the forwards. Mark Gay is on the bench. Obviously, he won't be touching the pitch this week at least. Then I've got Watkins with Crystal Palace at home. Now, Watkins in game week 1 was pretty terrible. I mean, Aston Villa did go down to 10 men against Newcastle, but even then, it really wasn't a good showing from Aston Villa at all. However, game week 2 was much more encouraging from a Watkins and an Aston Villa perspective. Now, they lost the game, but it was better in that Watkins was getting more chances. He had 4 shots in the box, which was no other player in game week 2 had more than that. So it kind of shows that they are actually getting chances now. Watkins basically had nothing in game week 1. After this game week as well, Aston Villa's fixtures are really, really good, so I won't be selling him anytime soon. Gyökeres is a fantastic option now, especially because Saka is out, meaning he's definitely on penalties. He probably was anyway. Havertz is also injured, so he won't take minutes off of him. Gyökeres is a fantastic option. However, the fixtures aren't quite there, so I'm kind of happy to wait on him. I don't think it's worth a transfer from Watkins at all. And then Thiago. So the Brentford striker situation is interesting. Visser still hasn't left the club, and the links died a little bit, to be honest, especially with Newcastle. They seem to now be more looking at Strand Larsen. However, there's still nothing from the manager which suggests that Visser is going to be in the squad. And Thiago has actually performed all right since he's been in, to be honest. He had nothing in game week 1 because Brentford were awful, Forest were just all over them. Did score a penalty though. So it was good to get that information quickly. It's good that we now know he's on penalties. Game week 2, again, we saw a little bit more from Brentford. They had Dango in the team, they had Schade in the team, they had Henderson in the team. The team was just a bit better and they performed better as well. Thiago did have a few more chances, and then he came on and scored in the Carabao Cup as well. So I really like having Thiago this week. Sunderland away, I think it's a nice differential that has a good fixture. So that's how my team's lined up. Let's now talk about my transfer plans, because I've got 2 transfers and I have thought about when I'm going to use some of my chips. So let's get into that. Okay, so now transfer plans and chip plans. I'll talk about my chip plans first because that impacts my transfers. So my plans or thinking with the chips is that we could get some random blank towards kind of game week 17, 18, 19. I think it's game week 17 that is being talked about as a potential blank. Now, it's quite unlikely at this point. I don't think we need to worry about it. However, I did quite like game week 13 as a wild card window anyway. So I will most likely keep my wild card for game week 13 or certainly later down the line. I've got nothing planned immediately for my wild card. However, the other two, now, bench boost and free hit. Triple captain can be used whenever. I'm not fussed about planning for that. The free hit. So as you can see, my team doesn't really have many City players. I've got Reinders and that is it. However, for game week 6, I will want Erling Haaland as my captain. And the problem with that is currently I don't have him, obviously. But after game week 6, I think I want Salah and not Haaland. So rather than using a transfer to switch between the two, then my plan is to probably free hit in game week 6, which means that I don't need to worry about game week 6 when I'm looking at players that I'm transferring in. Now, I'm pretty sure in game week 6 that Crystal Palace have a terrible fixture. It may even be against Liverpool potentially. So that is something, when I'm looking at players that I'm bringing in, I don't need to look at game week 6 as an option. So it means that I can bring in the likes of Mateta, I can bring in Munoz, I can bring in Sarr, something like that, and not have to worry about game week 6. So I think I'm, at the moment, fairly set on free hitting in game week 6. I think the 2 weeks that look good for a bench boost are game week 5 and game week 8. Now, it is obviously team dependent, but that's when Burnley have a couple of good fixtures. So obviously, as I've got Esteve and Dubravka, my bench boost will kind of not hinge on it, but I need to look at when Burnley have good fixtures, and those 2 weeks are the best for it. Now, if I'm thinking about other players that have good fixtures in those weeks, then you basically just need to look at your team and see. You can go on something like FPL.team as a planning tool, or Fantasy Football Hub's also a planning tool where you can go and look at future weeks and what your team will look like. You can put in the transfers. So I've kind of done that. And game week 5 and game week 8, for me, game week 8 looks a little bit better. I know that game week 5 is quite a popular one, but with the likes of Thiago, with the likes of Richards, and this is where the transfers come into it, because I'm looking at Palace players as well. It all looks better in game week 8 for me. So my plan, or loose plan, because I could just go in game week 5, I'm not really ruling it out, but I do like game week 8 better. My plan is to bench boost in game week 8. And if I'm free hitting in game week 6, then I don't need to worry about Palace's bad fixture in game week 6. So my immediate thoughts are to look at Munoz, Sarr and Mateta. Now, it all kind of depends on whether Palmer's fit or not. If Palmer's fit and he's fine for this week, I will just roll my transfer, and then I'll look at these Palace guys next week, because Palace are playing Aston Villa away. They play on Thursday night in the Europa League, the Conference League, so I don't need to transfer these guys in for this week really, especially if Palmer's fine. If Palmer is not fine, then I will most likely move him to Ismaila Sarr. Sarr's got an unbelievable record against Aston Villa, which is not really something that I particularly look at, previous records, but it is kind of quite nice that that is the case. Then what I'd then do, that would give me enough money to do Mark Gay up to Mateta. That sets me up really nicely. The reason that I might not do that this week though, the Palmer to Sarr move I could do this week. Then if I was to do the Gay to Mateta move this week, I'd have a bit of a benching headache. It would be between probably Verts. I'd maybe even have to bench Sarr after bringing him in. So it seems pointless to do both of these transfers this week, meaning that if Palmer's out, I will likely just do Palmer to Sarr and then wait and get Mateta after the international break. Don't think I need to rush to do that, because like I say, this fixture isn't the best and I'd have a benching headache anyway. So those are my chip and transfer plans. I'll talk more about my bench boost team in game week 4. I would kind of bring up and show you what my team looks like in the following weeks, but it's not really too relevant at this point, given that not that many of my decisions hinge on when I'll be using the chips. So that's the reason that I've just left my team on the screen. If and when I talk about my bench boost team and free hit team, I will show you what my team looks like in each of the weeks so that you can see it easily. But this week, yeah, if Palmer's fine, then I will likely just roll. If Palmer's out, then I will probably go to Sarr There's other players, like I do really like Semenyo as an option. I just think that in the weeks that I need him, Sar's got better fixtures. So that is most likely where I go. Another player I kind of do, or am interested in, is Gyökeres, as I talked about. However, if I was to do the same moves, it would involve doing Palmer down to... I couldn't afford Sar if I wanted to do this. If I wanted to do Palmer and Gay out, I couldn't afford Gyökeres and Sar in. It would have to be a 6 million midfielder, and they're not great. I mean, Dango's probably the best one, or Anderson maybe. I just much prefer Sar in that spot. Another way I could do it is Palmer and Thiago to Gyökeres and probably Sar I can get at that point. But I don't really like selling Thiago either. If I'm going to bench boost soon, then I want to get rid of Mark Gay probably. So that's why I prefer Mateta and Sar. But yeah, that's all for this one. If you've got any questions on my team or my plans, then drop them in the comments. If you've got any question on your team or your plans, then drop them in the comments. But that is all. If you did like the video, do hit like, do subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.